That's big business. Hit town, but that's big pimpin'. My potential, that's infinite. Pin game insane. Make hits like King Griffin, a 10th inning.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 24 of the 10th Inning Podcast. As always, I'm Sean. He's Dan. That is Lorenzo Kane. Heck of a player. And that is that McCutcheon?
That is Andrew McCutcheon right there, folks.
That's an awesome
Uncle Larry action. Okay, a little lean in the cup, it seems. Good for Uncle Larry, former center fielder of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Obviously got a shout out for left fielders.
Yeah.
Excuse the attire. I'm just in the I don't need sunglasses anymore, huh? Just got home from work.
Now, Dan, I see you got the UNC shirt on. You think they make the tourney or no?
I do. Well, for NC, for basketball or baseball?
Let's go both.
Okay. Forgot that was basketball was a hot topic. That is the hot topic right now. That season's ending.
It is.
Got one last game on Saturday against Duke. We are going to lose. Hopefully we lose by less than 10. Less than 15. Okay. I do think we are going to get in. I think we're probably going to be a 10 seed. But I think we're going to get in. We have 22 wins now. We are 22-8. We don't have any big wins. We have not beaten any ranked team. 4 of our losses are to ranked teams, but we also haven't had any. We've only played 4 games against ranked teams. We've lost all 4. So that's kind of sucks with the ACC this year. There hasn't been a lot of great competitive play. We haven't got a lot of the opportunities to face a lot of ranked teams, unfortunately. I guess with COVID and the way the schedules work. So I think we'll do well in tournament. Oh God, I tell you no. Brady Manic is good. I like Brady. Armando Baycott, our center, is going to get blown up by whatever centers are out there. He's very soft. He's decent. He's a decent scorer, but he's really really soft. And Caleb Love in prime time is he's literally like a young Kyrie. It's kind of scary. But I think he's going to make it to the league. Great shooter.
Yeah.
Like John Morant type flair archetype.
Yeah.
However, the maturity is not there. Way too many turnovers. He pushes himself too hard and tries to do all himself, and he can't.
Yeah.
It's my baseball. We finally got ranked. We were not ranked to start the year, which is a little bucky in my opinion. We were ranked 24 going into today, which we won again. We're now 8-1. The offense is legit no matter what. We haven't played great teams yet, but the offense is legit. Pitching remains to be seen, but they've been pretty good. We got Vance Honeycutt. Okay, if you check my Twitter, the updated polls that he's now Mac Trout. Juan Soto was a little bit of a stretch. It was only one at bat in. All he did was walk, and I said, that's beautiful. He just looked great. But he has since stolen every single time he's gotten on first base. First pitch, without care in the world. It's not even close. I think he's leading the ACC in steals by a good amount. Just the raw power and speed from this guy. No other comment.
Wow. That sounds wonderful. Unfortunately, my college basketball team is not looking so hot at the moment. St. Bonaventure is going to have to win the tournament to get in. But the other college team I root for, Providence College, is looking pretty good right now. Potential 3 to 4 seed in the tournament. So maybe we'll play UNC somewhere along the way.
For your sake, I hope you do.
Yeah. All right. Well, enough with the nice conversations here. Dan and I just wanted to quickly go over the very upsetting state of the game of Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
The owners and players couldn't come to an agreement yesterday when the deadline was actually extended by the owners. And by the way, this deadline was imposed by the owners in Major League Baseball itself. There was no clause in any contract or any agreement saying that games had to be canceled. Apparently the owners, from the reports, again, this is all reporting, so who knows if it's true, but we assume it is. The owners really didn't give much in the regards of what the players were looking for. And the players stood pretty pat on what they wanted. And the first, allegedly, I still don't know if this is going to be true or not. The first 2 series of the year are postponed, but I think if an agreement does come about pretty quickly, they could always tack those games on to the end of the season. But I don't know if an agreement is going to be coming in anytime soon. They won't meet again, I think, until Friday at the earliest, maybe. But baseball, really, unfortunately, I don't want to be, bearer of bad news or anything like that. But it's at a very, very much a crossroads right now, with events happening years prior, building up to this. It's just not what we want to have to be talking about on this podcast. So,
I'm gonna be the bad guy. Okay. I'm gonna give the opposite perspective to a degree. I'm gonna take the owner's side here, which 99% of people haven't, and for good reason. Again, I'm just giving the opposite perspective because I do think it's important. The owners did come up a fairly decent amount as far as like minimum salary. They went up to over 700,000. Just one sticking point that I felt was, although they didn't come up with CBT or some other things, my issue with CBT is I don't think the players understand what they want. I don't think they understand the consequences of what they want. If they want the luxury tax to go up to 240, that means the Dodgers, Yankees, and Red Sox will be able to spend more money. There's no other team close to hitting. Not like every team's like, oh, we can't go past 220. Yeah. Teams are at 50. Okay, no one's like, the 3 teams knock on the door. If you open that up, we're right at the precipice, at the edge of where small market teams can stay competitive, from 50 million to 190, 200. If you open it up to 240, the Dodgers spend 240. That's another Freddie Freeman on top. They don't have to sell anyone. They wouldn't have to lose Corey Seager. They could have signed Seager back and then signed Freddie Freeman. That's wild. I don't think that's going to help them as much as they think. It's going to get one more big contract on 3 teams, and it's not going to affect 27 teams' roster construction, in my opinion. What I think would have been a better thing was what MLB proposed in the beginning, which is a minimum to either usher out the owners that don't want to spend money and get owners that do, or force them to allocate enough funds, because they are getting revenue sharing to their player payroll. I think that would be more beneficial. Obviously, I don't know everything. I don't know the numbers. From an outside perspective, that makes more sense. And as far as the player salaries, the minimum salary, like I said, up to 700. It was about 550. That is, to put in big numbers in perspective, that is a 33% raise for 66% of MLB's employees. If you think about it like that, if 2/3 of your entire organization got a 33% raise in 1 year, it's a little bucky. And they weren't happy enough with that. Obviously, that's just one issue that they came up with. But I think that in itself could have been enough if they were truly fighting for the smaller player, the average player, 66% of the league, which they said they were. I think they would have just taken it off that. I think there's obviously other motivations for the players to get the veterans, which is perfectly fine, which is why they're fighting for the CBT to raise. So they have star players getting more money, which that's my issue. It's star players running the organization, running the conversation for the players in Cole and Scherzer, who already have their $40 million bag, and they're trying to get their boys that when they could have just got a 33% raise for 2/3 of the league.
Yeah,
that's the opposite. That's all I gotta say.
Basically, what it comes down to is both sides are at fault. They're pointing fingers at each other. They got to come to an agreement.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the old saying is billionaires versus millionaires. And I don't remember which pitcher tweeted this out the other day. It might have been Walker Buehler was trying to say, he deleted the tweet later, but I think it was Walker Buehler, said that it isn't billionaires versus millionaires. It's owners versus their employees. And he went on to try and explain how the players shouldn't be looked at as millionaires, and that received a lot of backlash, but understandably so, because Walker Buehler, I don't think he's on a big contract now, but he's due to get one very soon. And to the average person, especially with COVID and everything, people lost their jobs. The average person who's making, a lot less than any of these guys are making, that can be tough to kind of hear. But I thought it was pretty interesting how that he put that tweet out there and immediately deleted it, like within hours, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
and the millionaires, billionaires thing has been thrown around a lot. I agree and disagree. Like, I get it to a point. but also, these guys' careers are only going to be, a lot of the average is probably 5 years, and a lot of them only making the 500K. That's $2.5 million to last you from 30 until 70, 80 years old. I'm sorry, that's not going to work. And you're not in taxes. Once you get over 250, you're going to be taxed at almost 50%. So you got to think about that. There's a lot of players in baseball who this won't sustain them, especially minor league players, which salaries really need to be taken a look at. That's the biggest issue right now. People can't even get to the major leagues because they can't afford it. They can't afford to not work and play out their minor league careers. And at the end of the day, if I could do what these guys could do, then my services would be worth what they're worth. It just so happens that baseball is a huge industry, $1 billion industry. But that doesn't mean, because my industry isn't a $1 billion industry, that they don't deserve to fight for what they're worth. I do think it's fair that they're fighting for their true value, what they bring to the organization.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to that. I don't know if we mentioned this, but today we'll be covering the top 10 center fielders. So Dan, if you don't have anything else to add, would you like to lead us off with the center fielders?
I know you're throwing it to me for a good reason, and that's, I'm gonna let everybody know what we got. First off,
you got about your 30 just missed guys.
I think it's not that bad today, Sean. I think it's not that bad. We have 16 names on the docket. Okay, 16 names on the docket. That ain't bad. I'm gonna show you a video, guys, before we start. There's a couple people. He's not on the list, so 17, I guess we'll say. This is Lorenzo Cain. Love him. We'll get to him later. A guy that used to play a little bit of outfield, a little bit of center field for the Texas Rangers. Okay, fun guy. Not ever like a great player. High on base guy in the early days, but he was very high on base guy. Was Asian. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Shin-Soo Choo?
Woo! Shin-Soo Choo, Sean. For some reason, it got recommended to me in my YouTube while I was doing my research, I guess, for center fielders. I thought I really use YouTube. Anyway, his last at bat in the majors. And folks, there's something that pulled heartstrings for me, this guy's last at bat. I just think everyone should see it. And I want you to take this into your life. Okay, implement this into your daily life. Imagine this is the last. He knows it's the last at bat too. He's never gonna get another one. It means almost nothing. And look at how he did. Look at what he did. So we'll share the screen, guys. Again, listen. You want to take a look at what my 15th, 16th ranked person is? Go ahead. Be an ass. I don't even care anymore. We're focused on Shin-Soo Choo right now.
Love those uniforms.
Oh, the powder blues.
Yeah. Seager's gonna look great in them. Hustle. Beautiful. He just hustles, man. He got injured. Nice. I remember he played for the Reds too. He's pretty good for Cincinnati for a few years.
Yeah. But I just thought that was great. I don't know. I mean, he just gave every last ounce he had just on a bunt single. I think that's phenomenal. I really do. I'm sorry, they got Corey Seager hitting a homer in the background from me right now. God bless that. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Anyway, number 16, as you guys I'm sure saw because you're all assholes, is Trent Grisham. Okay, 16th for real life, 13th for fantasy though. 19 bombs, 250 average, 340 on base, 16 steals, a 3 for defense and leadership. Decent defense, and as you know, the 2019 World Series MVP, Trent Grisham. That's obviously a sick joke. Also, I was high on Trent coming into this year. I thought he could be like a 25-25 guy. It feels like he's going to be a closer to between a 15 and 20, 15 and 20 guy. The average and on base isn't great, but I do like him as going forward in his career. Also want to shout out what happened to Victor Robles, Sean. kind of disheartening. Had a
He-
terrible year last couple of years. I didn't even
Number one prospect in baseball. They thought him and Soto were going to be, together for a while. Yeah.
Being an NL East guy, do you know, is there anything that happened specifically, or he just sucks? He never worked out. I thought he had half a good year. It looked promising.
I think he had some injury issues. I don't think it was this year. It might have been the year prior. I think still very raw. Seeing him play in games, he'll make some bonehead plays on like the bases where he'll take an extra, like try and steal when he shouldn't, like situationally. And then he just hasn't hit. He's got, I think, a good set of skills defensively, but offensively just hasn't translated from the minor leagues to majors, because he was supposed to be, honestly, he was a bigger prospect than Juan Soto was coming up.
I know he was. I was kind of high on him coming out because he was a high speed guy, a high contact as well. My issue is last year. I mean, he came out. Everyone was like, "This guy's going to steal 40 bags a year," right? This is the kind of speed he had. 8 stolen bases, 6 caught stealing in 107 games. He didn't even steal anymore. Like the speed was gone. Yeah. He's only 24. Sorry to take off a tangent on Victor Robles, but God, that's kind of sad. Anyway, Kyle Lewis, 15th in real life, 14th for fantasy. 20 bombs, 250 average, 340 on base, 10 steals. Very reminiscent of Grisham. 4.5 for defense and leadership. Then we got to the tied for 13th guys. This is where the defense guys fell for me. I keep ranking offense a lot higher than defense. It's just, unless you could be an above average offensive guy with stellar defense, then I'll rank you highly. But if you don't bring the offense a little bit, there are good defenders just because they're good athletes that are offensive players as well. Harrison Bader, 13th in real life, 16th for fantasy, 18 homers, 252, 328 on base with 12 steals. Could be like a 15-15 guy, one of the best defenders in the league, possibly. I think he's the second best defender in center field, 2.5 for defense and leadership. The number one defensive center fielder, in my opinion, from last year. This was kind of bucky. I've heard of this guy. I always just toss it to the side. He kind of broke out a little bit last year. Miles Straw. I don't know if you took a look at him at all. Had 30 steals last year out of nowhere, so a little speed element. Doesn't hit homers. 13th real life, 15th fantasy. 3 homers, 270 average, 345 on base, 28 bags, 2.75. But last year, Straw had a 30 stolen base season, and he hit like 290 or 300 or so. I think he had 301 if I remember correctly. With a decent on base percentage, just no pop. I think the average does come down a little bit. But these are little players: speed, defense, and batting average upside. Coming in at 12, we have the poster board here, Lorenzo Cain. 12th for real life, 9th for fantasy, and to me that makes no sense because he should be 9th for real life, 12th for fantasy, if you're asking me. I'd rather have him on my team than on my fantasy team. And I did make my own rankings, so it doesn't make sense. I don't agree with myself. The reason that he is higher for fantasy is there is a lot of high variance guys at the end of this list that we'll talk about, either because of injury or Christian Yelich is MVP mate, those kind of situations, or maybe rookies that didn't pan out kind of situations. Anyway, 14 homers, 276 average, 340 on base, 20 steals with a 2 for defense and leadership. In my opinion, probably the best leader and still top 5 defender at the position. A guy I really think could have been in the top 10. Also, the numbers I'm projecting are fairly higher than his last year's numbers. I am projecting a breakout for Lorenzo Cain. I am. I do think he gets to 14 homers. And I think he hits almost 280. I mean, he hit like 250 last year with 8 homers. I'm telling you, I think Cain rips it back open. He's 35 years old, but the metrics say it, that he should have been a little better last year. And this, I like Lorenzo Cain. Am I allowed to like Lorenzo Cain?
I love Lorenzo Cain. He tortured the Mets in his years with Kansas City, and I still love him.
That's right.
Great,
one of the greatest smiles in the game.
Oh God, yeah. Rob's home runs, smiles. I mean, how do you not love him?
I couldn't tell you. I actually couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Number 11, Sean, you might like this. You might not. It's Brandon Nimmo for me. little bit of an underrated player, to be frank with you. Number 11 for real life, 10th for fantasy. The injury history is really what the issue is. The guy can't get on the field. 90 games last year, that's pretty much the most he's ever played, if I'm not mistaken. 16 homers, 280 average. The thing is, this guy gets on base, and everyone knows how much that tickles me. 400 on base. He's done it almost every year he's been in the league. The numbers back it up. He's a 400 on base guy, which is Bucky. So again, 16, 280, 400 with 8 steals. The defense is questionable. It's getting better. I definitely agree that it's getting better, but it's still questionable. Leadership is what it is. That's 11 for me. Sean, I'll let you go. You're just missed, and then I'll let you start with 10. I gotta let my cats out.
Okay. So first off, for my just missed here, I gotta apologize to Chris Taylor. When we were doing second base, I probably should have ranked him at second base. I envisioned him more as a center fielder. Turns out he played less games as a center fielder than in center field as Cody Bellinger last year. So by those stats, he's not a center fielder, nor is he a right fielder. So I made a mistake there, Chrissy T. I apologize. You're a heck of a player, real heart and soul of a team kind of guy, and I think you're worth every penny that you get paid. Anyway. So some of the guys that missed out on my list, Lorenzo Cain is one of them, a guy I really wanted to have on my list. Unfortunately, just didn't make it. When you guys see my ranking of players, you might think that he's better than some of the guys I have on there. And frankly, I might too, but it was just kind of this one took a while for me to compile this list. So please let me know how much it sucks and how much I wasted my time. Anyway, also I have Brandon Nimmo on the just missed out. I've obviously watched a ton of him. He's a really good just person in general. Gives a lot of effort, but like you said, is always injured. It's fluke injuries too. He gets hit by the most pitches I've ever seen a player get hit with, and he has led the league in hit by pitches, and he misses a lot of games every year. He's got hit in the wrist, which knocked him out for most of last year. Elbow, shoulder, fingers. Dude can't catch a break. Loves to draw walks and then sprint down to first base. You gotta love that.
Hard 90s.
Absolutely. Yeah, so he's a guy who has played center field. He probably won't this year with Starling Marte on the Mets, although Nimmo did say he wanted to play center. But you can't overstate or underestimate what getting on base can do. He's a great leadoff hitter, hits 280, strikes out, a fair amount. I don't know what his exact numbers are, but I've seen him. I see him play every day, and I would like the strikeouts to come down a bit, but the guy gets on base like it's going out of style. Another person I had on my center fielders, just missed out list, who Dan, I believe you had in left fielder, was Ian Happ. He's a guy I think is very underrated, actually. He's got a lot of pop, strikes out a lot, but he's more of a modern day type player. He has kind of been up and down throughout his career. I know that because I've had him on fantasy multiple times, and some years have gone well, some years not so much. But he should be getting a lot of playing time for the Cubs moving forward, assuming he stays healthy. And those are the guys who just missed out on mine. And I can give you my 10th one if you'd like.
Go for it. I'd love to hear it.
All right, so my number 10 center fielder. Now, this is a guy who hasn't played a heck of a lot in the majors, but I think has a really bright future. Luis Robert. I really wasn't sure if he was – I knew he was an outfielder. He DHs quite a bit as well, but played more center than DH. He hasn't played more than 67 games in the majors, given he's only debuted in 2020.
Yep.
But when he has played, he has potential, given its potential, he hasn't exactly showed it, to hit and hit for a high average. Last year in 68 games, I know only 68 games, hit for a 338 average. And that is something I love as well as you love. A 378 on base percentage, not too bad. And an OPS of 946 given 68 games, but still, that is impressive. Got a little bit of speed, 6 stolen bases, only caught once, 14 walks to 61 strikeouts. So not an awful ratio there. Okay defender, not great, not awful, which can be a bit of a liability in center because you typically need an above average defender. He'll likely be moved to the corners before too long. but really the Chicago White Sox in general, the outfield isn't really based on defense. So
No.
Luis Robert is a guy I didn't really expect to make my top 10, but I kind of did a deeper dive and just got a little, I guess, impressed with what I think he could bring to the table. So Luis Robert, my number 10.
Yeah, former top prospect. I do think people still have the I think the general consensus is that he could still be like in that Juan Soto, Ronald Acuna class type player by the end of the year if he just gets on the field.
Yeah.
I will say how I feel about that a little bit later. He did make my list, but I'll give you my number 10. So 10th for real life. This is 11th for fantasy. Can't believe it. It's going to be my man, Cody Bellinger. Before I go into him, I am going to do a quick one more tidbit about Lorenzo Cain, just because I just want, almost every time I speak, I want to bring up Lorenzo because of how much I like him. Do you know when he started playing baseball?
You know what? Wasn't it like, I think I actually might know this. He started playing in high school, didn't he?
There you go. Sophomore year of high school, because he didn't make the basketball team. He did not own a baseball glove at the time in which he started.
That's crazy.
I mean, that's phenomenal. That's the kind of stuff me and you can only ever dream of. That would never happen for us, Sean. Anyway, moving on to Cody Belly. 28 homers, 265 average, 345 on base, and 10 steals. Basically, what I read to you is very close to his 2018 stat line. A little bit more power, give or take. But that's what I think Bellinger is going to be in 2022. And I don't think you can project much higher or lower. I'm going to do another share of the screen. I feel like we're doing that a lot today for me. But I want to just take you through something. I mean, this is one of the most parabolic swinging charts I've ever seen. I mean, this is 2021, and we all know Cody Bellinger was rough last year. Not like rough, okay? Bad. This is your 2019 MVP, though. 2020, I was still high on Cody Bellinger after he slumped last year. If you take a look, 239, he had 12. I mean, he was terrible in 2020, terrible in the short season. But his numbers backed up what he did in 2019. This is his 2020 rankings. He still had one of the best expected batting averages in the league. He was expected to hit 285 last year. So there's something weird going on where I do think he got very unlucky last year. And then he was injured after the frickin', God bless, throw the shoulder out because you hit a homer. Congratulations. Last year was injury. 2 years ago was unlucky. There's a shot that this is still Cody Bellinger here. And it's just waiting to break out again. There's a shot. And I was high on him last year. You look at 2019, same thing. This is 2018. I feel like on the next year to recovery, I feel like this is a more viable season that you can get. And believe it or not, a half-ass season from Cody Bellinger is still a stud season, still a top 10 season. Defense and leadership, I believe I have at 3.5. Leadership is questionable. He's been on a lot of winning teams, but everyone thinks he always looks high. But he does. You can't take away from the guy plays hard, and the defense is, in my opinion, he would be one of the best defensive players at a position if he played one. When he plays center field, he's filthy out there, so fast, so much faster than people really, I think, even realize how quick he is from home to first as a lefty. It's like insane. He beats out so many infield hits, and he does try hard too. And he's a great defender at first as well. But we know we'll have Freddie. Whatever, that just pisses me off. Regardless of the fact, Cody Bellinger at 10. I'm really rooting for the guy, Sean. You think he could be an MVP again? You think it's a full season?
Well, I honestly do, and you'll see in my ranking. I'm much higher on him than you, I guess.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Could part of his expected batting average being higher could be the shifting, or does that take it into account? Because he gets extreme shifts on him on the right side of the infield.
Yeah, I mean, it takes into account I believe what it takes, not shifting, it takes into account barrel, how hard you hit it. It takes into account how hard you hit it and the launch angle of where you hit it. And it takes the metrics of every ball that's been hit at those metrics, what percentage does that batted ball event have? Like every time you hit a ball 25 degrees, 95 miles per hour, that baseball, out of everyone who's hit that same metrics, has a batting average of 350. So that one at bat will get expected of a 350, and that'll go on, and it'll all compile to a thing. So I don't think it accounts for shifts, but that's fair. And hey, listen, I mean, that's something to think about for fantasy. If they make this 2 feet on the grass, and 2 people on each side of second base thing, lefties are really going to get a bump.
Yeah.
Really.
I really love that rule. I want that to be a thing so bad. I hate shifts with a passion.
I'm back and forth on it. I was speaking to Zeke. Zeke is he likes the ability. He doesn't love the shift and what it's done to the game. But he likes the fact that baseball is minimal rules to a degree, even though it's not really true. But as far as like on-field play, and it's all strategy. You can put your players wherever you want, and that's kind of the fun of it. The one team can have 9 guys on the right side of the infield if they felt like it. You know what I mean? Which I get, but I mean, you'd love to see them do what we thought we were going to name the podcast, beat the shift.
Yeah,
but they haven't been. They're not interested. The problem is they responded to the shifts with increased launch angle and trying to hit the ball in the air, and because they don't want to hit it in the ground anymore. They didn't respond with let's try and go the other way. And because they responded this way, now players that hit 5, 10 home runs are trying to hit 15. Their averages are down. Everyone's just hitting a homer or striking out because they're lofting. And that's not stopping. That's the direction they're going. I'm hoping if they implement the shift rule, people will stop that aren't homer hitters will stop trying to teach launch angle because they can now hit the ball on the ground with success. And things will hopefully matriculate back to, more small ball era. That's just
Which all these strikeouts, not to go back when we were talking about before about the state of the game, but it's not helping the game whatsoever.
No.
Bellinger, I'll speak on him a little more when he comes up on my list.
For 9.
My number 9, Adolis Garcia. Now, I want, not that I can see any of our viewers or listeners here, but how many of you guys knew who Adolis Garcia was before this year? I feel like not many. Guy had a breakout year. Again, he's not one of our type players. The dude hit 243 last year and struck out 194 times, but he still hit 31 bombs, 90 RBIs, had a sub 800 OPS, which not great. I wouldn't be surprised if he just has an awful year next year. I don't know if this is a fluke or what.
Right, Sean.
He could not. I don't really know. He's the type of player where, they traded Joey Gallo in Texas, and he might be the new Joey Gallo, and I hate Joey Gallo. I don't hate him as a person. I hate the way he plays baseball.
I'm getting there.
Well, speaking of being the shift, he hates the shift. He said it outwardly, vocally. Anyway.
I'm sure. That's shocking. Try, Joey. Try and hit the other way.
He couldn't if he wanted to. I don't know much about him, to be honest, with Adolis Garcia. Decent fielder. I don't really do you know anything about him? I heard of him this year, but I did not know how good of a year in some statistic regards he had. I don't really know. I had no idea he was going to make my list, to be honest.
He broke onto the scene and hit a really good amount of homers. I believe he was over 30, probably 31.
Yeah, 31.
Right. He's decent speed too. I think he's 15 plus bags, right? Or so.
Yeah, stole 16, got caught 5.
There you go. Yeah, I think I didn't even look at him. Maybe I should have. I know he was technically, I think this was his rookie eligibility year. He got some talk for rookie of the year. Again, the on base, I think, and the strikeouts were just too much. I think the on base was under 3.
The on base is 286, and he finished 4th in rookie of the year voting. So
yeah, I mean, I like Adolis. I didn't even look at his advanced metrics to tell you, so I don't have enough information on him.
He was a guy I was not super familiar with, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, man, he was a rookie last year.
Yeah.
I'll jump into my number 9, a guy that we've already mentioned today, and that's going to be Luis Robert or Robert. I've heard Louis Robert. I've heard Luis Robert. I've had Luis Robert, Louis Robert. I've heard all 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
I go Luis Robert.
That's what I go with.
I think Luis is definite. You can't be Luis. I mean, the guy isn't.
No, you can't.
It is Luis. I feel like it sounds better as Luis. If you don't want to be French, that's your prerogative, and I'm gonna give him Robert. Listen, the guy has all the tools in the tool shed somebody would want, every last one. Congratulations, Matt, for having him, but I can't have him higher than this. The injury history is real. As fast as he is, I'm trying to pull up some stats now. He hasn't stolen a crazy amount of bases. It looks like he's going to be around like 15 or so. People are projecting more, but I don't see it. He didn't do it in the amount of games that he's played. And it's just the strikeouts are the issue for me. As you know, I don't like the strikeouts. I think that really limits his average and on-base upside to where he will never be able to be like, I mean, Acuna strikes out, but Acuna also walks. Robert really doesn't walk as much as I would like that I've seen. And my issue with a guy like between Acuna, Soto, and the jump that Robert would have to make is in the minors, he's never had a professional season where he didn't strike out as many games as he played. Never. He's always struck out. And it's not because he's overpowered by the competition in the minors. It's just he has, a kind of approach that has holes in his swing. And that's fine. People can strike out and have a lot of success in the major leagues, clearly. How many guys have we spoken about that have done that? But I think to assume that he's going to be able to strike out 200 times and still be as successful, as those guys, I don't think that's possible. He hit 338, but his BABIP was also 400. It was 398 last year. But he does hit the ball hard. When he hits it, he hits the ball extremely hard. I've said a lot about him, but the point being, I think he's 8th for fantasy. I think you could take a risk for that. 26 bombs, 280 average, 340 on base, 13 steals. The defense is actually average, I would say. I don't think he hits over 30 homers either. He really didn't show that. I think he hit 8 or so. He had 13, 13 in 68 games. That's on pace for about the 25 to 28 homer mark. Everyone's saying like 30-20. I don't see it. I see much closer to 25-15. Sorry for speaking so much, and that was in a great season. He's on pace for 25-15. People saying 30-20. I don't know. It's not, sorry.
No, I when I was looking at the upside more than what he had, like projecting what he may do in the future. Then there hasn't been a heck of a lot of sample size for what he's done. Yeah,
it seems like a little bit like Wander to me, where it's like people are projecting things.
Yeah,
but there's no track record of it even. Like he's always performed he's a great hitter. He's always hit, close to 300, but he's never showed crazy speed or pop. He might get 30-20 in his prime years. I just don't think he's there right now. I'll leave it at that. I'm not trying to bash the guy.
A thought that just occurred to me was, you think Tony La Russa hates his life? That an old school manager is managing a team full of these guys who just swing for the fences every single time up there? Like he is as old school as they come.
Wild job for Tony La Russa to take.
I can't imagine he just sits in that dugout and doesn't just fume over the at bats his players put together.
Can't even say anything to him.
Yeah, just a random.
He's got Eloy and Luis. He can't even speak to. It's such a weird hire. You would think you can get a guy like an Alex Cora would be such a good fit there. A Spanish-speaking guy who's played in a close to the modern era. That'd be such a better fit there than an old white guy. I don't get that move.
Well, yeah, what happened? He who's the guy that got sent down because he swung at a 3-0 pitch and hit a home run? Oh, I forget his name.
I don't remember.
I should know it. He started out the year really hot and then he retired and then unretired.
I don't remember this story at all, Sean. This sounds
Oh,
terrible.
well, I'll look it up when you say your next guy.
Okay.
But you're gonna really love my what are we, number 8 here? Let me see. I think we're at number 8. We are at number 8.
We'll move
Now this guy
today, but hey, whatever.
Yeah. This is a guy who literally could play any position. He just so happened. What was that?
Does he play for the Dodgers?
Not currently.
Oh.
You're gonna love him. I didn't know what position he played the most of, and he happened to play center field the most out of any position. This is Kike Hernandez. I am high on Kike Hernandez. He's 29 years old, and his offensive numbers just get better and better every year he plays where he's healthy.
For 30 homers like me this year, right?
I was thinking closer to 25 because he had 20 last year, 20 and 60 for RBIs.
30.
I think he could go 25 to like 70. I think he bumps it up a little bit. He had a hell of a postseason. Really clutch hitter. Very, very underrated signing when it happened for Boston. And they are reaping the benefits. I believe it's a 2-year contract, so he's going to be a free agent after this year, which is another reason why I think he's going to have a big year because he wants to get paid. And God bless him for that.
When I said 30, I didn't even think about the free agent year. I know what I would have said 45, Sean. I would have said 45 homers for Kike. Book it.
Well, they're not testing for steroids anymore, so maybe some of these numbers will shoot up again for these players.
That's right. Not
saying Kike is a candidate to do it. I'm not saying he's bad character or anything like that. I'm just saying I didn't want you to get upset over that. He 250 average, about where he hits every year, 240 to 250. He's never going to be a guy who hits for a great average, but you know what you expect. You expect solid defense. He can play any position. Clutch hitter, as I discussed before. Great clubhouse guy. You've said countless times that he was one of the most important players on the Dodgers, those Dodger teams, and they missed a player like him this year.
One of the main
I think he's very underrated. 337 on base percentage, and you know what? He'll. I think he's gonna. He only had 1 stolen base last year. I think he's gonna get 8 this year. I think he's gonna get 8. 8. Yep. Caught 3 times.
I like it. Sean, listen, I had the homer upside, you get the stolen base upside. We're crafting an MVP candidate in Kike Hernandez right now. And I like it.
Kike Hernandez.
No better guy to get behind.
Yeah.
If you didn't hate me already, this is the point in the podcast where you're not going to be a fan of me. You'll have time to look up who you're talking about the whole retire 3-0 homer guy, because I'm going to do something people aren't going to like. For the most part, when I do this, I've been objective, right? I've been objective, even with guys I like. I've said exactly what I think they're going to do based on prior performance, other than maybe Kike and Lorenzo Cain. Have really been the 2 people that I've given like crazy lines for. I'm going to do that here, okay? And you're going to think it's bias, but I'm just going to be frank with you. This is just my frank opinion. Number 8 overall, Sean. Matt's going to hate this. I have Robert at 9. Talk about not playing a lot and struggling. I mean, Robert hasn't played a lot and he did well. I got Jared Kelenic as the number 8.
Wow.
Not going to lie to you.
Wow.
Not going to lie to you.
And I said I was forecasting with Luis Robert. Wow.
Number 8 for real life. Number 12 for fantasy. I understand people saying you should go the opposite way. I think there's a lot of risk for fantasy that this might not work out. But for real life, man, I know it didn't look good last year, but this guy's the real deal if you're asking me. I mean, listen. Let's just go through it a little bit first. My projected line: 28 homers, 285 average, a 330 on base with 14 steals. The defense and leadership.
Wow.
I think he's already a leader on that team. Just given his persona and how he's handled himself, and he didn't handle himself well, but through the struggles as a rookie, he also handled himself well while struggling. With some of the reports that came out, he said, like, I just need to do better for this team. Like, he didn't handle himself with the pitching well, but he handled himself struggling as a rookie well, which I think is really important. And defensively, he certainly can do stuff with the glove. Listen, the expecting batting average was 219 last year. Okay, it is what it is. He struck out 28% of the time.
Yeah.
Those things are facts. Those things are not going to change. However, I just, come on, maybe it's just hope. Maybe it's I have so much stock in this guy, and I can't imagine.
I want to ask, when you were basing his projections,
Yes.
what are you basing them on exactly? Like, are you just sounding like, oh, this sounds like what he could do, like, or are you? I'm just curious because those seem like pretty big numbers for a guy who didn't necessarily do well. But the other side of the coin is we see a lot of times players come up and struggle initially and do well. I mean, Mike Trout did that and he came up. So you never know. I'm just curious how you came to these figures.
Yeah, I think he was overwhelmed. And I took a look at his minor league stats, and I think what they project is a lot closer to what I laid out. I mean, he's been a 330, 320, 400 guy / line in the minor leagues. In AAA this year, when he was playing in AAA this year, I mean, he had a 624 slugging, over 1,000 OPS, and he hasn't had as bad strikeout troubles as a guy like Luis Robert has had. And when you take a look, people aren't going to like this, but you take a look at the splits here. We're gonna go back. We're gonna go back. Here we go. So I'm just gonna take you through his season. So he comes up in May, right? Awful, 118. June, guy didn't even get a hit. July, terrible. August, starting to pick it up a little bit. September, last month of the year, 242, 321, 7 homers in 26 games. Okay, I'm not saying you can project that month out, but I do think he was starting to get the hang of it. This is his last full month. The first 3 months, he was very, very overwhelmed. I think this is more fair to what he should have been doing last year, and I do think he takes a step up from this, getting a year older. When we take a look at this, and people will say, look at it. I mean, he just didn't do well. Like, the metrics didn't even back it up. I'll also say, though, his expected batting average was low, but his BABIP was also 216, which for a guy like this, his BABIP is going to be no lower than 315, in my opinion. So that's so unsustainable. His average is coming up no matter what you say. But we go to a guy like Vlad, and I'm not saying he's going to be like Vlad, and nor did I project Vlad numbers. I just feel like people were so high on Vlad coming out, but you take a look at 2019, look at his StatCast metrics. They were down too. Not as bad as Kelnick. No, not even close. Kelnick was blue. But I just think Vlad is just an animal now. I just think there's so much room for improvement. The swing is too good. Guys, don't look at that. The swing is just too freaking good. I'm sorry. I've seen too much of him for him not to succeed. And when all those numbers come true, you have to say something to me. Number 8 overall, Jared Kelnick. It took a long time, man. I'm sorry.
Didn't he homer his first at bat or first game too?
He went hitless, I believe. I believe he went hitless in his first 2 or 3 games, but his first hit was a homer.
Gotcha.
His first hit was a homer. He's fat. He's got speed. He's got power. He's a good defense. I'm telling you, Sean, 285 with 28 bombs this year. Watch out for Jared Kelnick. He's breaking out.
I don't want to wish bad things on anybody, but all I got to say is the Mets traded him for Robinson Cano, and that was one of the worst trades. That was one of the worst trades in Mets history. So you should be on the Mets right now. That's all I'm going to say. Number 7 for me here, Cedric Mullins.
Ceddy Mullins.
Another guy who really did nothing until this year. And props to him, breaking out on the Orioles, one of the bright spots on just a very tough team to really root for or watch. So sorry for you guys out there, Orioles fans. Really, the guy is, a speedster in today's terms. 30 stolen bases, caught 8 times.
30
years ago. Yeah, absolutely. Years ago, 30 stolen bases wouldn't really be close to the league leader, but nowadays that's up there. Yeah. He hits for a decent average, 291. I mean, he strikes out a fair amount, 125, but, that's not awful in today's game. OBP of 360. Like you said, potential he was 30-30 last year and potential to continue that on. He's only 26 years old. Pretty good fielder out there in center. I don't really know too much about him personally, whether he's a leader in that clubhouse yet or not. He may not be. He's still a young guy. It's probably more Trey Mancini at the moment. Your favorite player.
Oh.
But yeah, I think Cedric Mullins has a really bright future in the league. And he's another guy who I wasn't sure was going to place on my list here. It was a very fluid list, so I had guys moving up and down. I mean, every list we've made has been very fluid, but the outfielding positions for sure have been really fluid. But yeah, Cedric Mullins, 26 years old, really good bright side or upside, whatever you want to word that. And I think that last year wasn't necessarily a fluke either. So I think what he did is sustainable. And I honestly think he's only going to get better from there, to be quite frank. So
I do appreciate your frankness, first and foremost. Moving on to I'll talk about Eddie later. He did make my list. Another guy who made my list and who still made my fantasy team. This guy, I just got to give a PSA. I'm sorry, Brian. You've been in every, if he was really on my team, Sean, every day he sees a new tweet out there. Brian Reynolds attached to newest trade talks from Red Hots. I throw this guy around like he just wasn't fucking phenomenal last year. And I get it. And I'm disrespecting him again on this list. It's 7 overall. He's a great player. I don't want people to think I don't think he's good. I really do. 7th for real life, 4th for fantasy. So a little bit of a gap there. 25 bombs, 290 average, 380 on base, 6 steals. Really good defender. Leadership, I don't know much about it. 3 for D in leadership. You're thinking 25 homers, 290 average, 380 on base. How is this guy only 7th? And I hear you. I don't know. I couldn't really tell you. All I can tell you is his lack of speed. We're talking about center fielders here. This is the most athletic position other than shortstop, maybe, and I'd argue center field is. They have to cover more ground. In the majors, there's literally 6 guys who are 5'2" athletes at the top of my list. And you can question, there's like one guy here you can question, maybe he's not a 5'2" athlete. But his other numbers, are a little bit better, in my opinion. Brian Reynolds, man, 7th for center fielders, but this guy is still probably a top 35, 40 player all day. This is a really phenomenal player. He came out in 2020 and just shit bricks, man. 189 average, 275 on base, over 55 games. And everyone's like, well, his rookie year was Bushki. It wasn't real. 314 average with a 377 on base. He'll never do it again. Comes back in 2021 and does almost the same thing with a 302 average, 390 on base. This guy is just, he's filth. I think he's going to almost do exactly what he did last year. Again, and my projections reflect that. There's just so many good guys in center field. I do love you, Brian. I love you. You're going to stay on the Red Hots this year, unless someone offers me a first round. I don't know. I like you,
Well, I ranked him as left fielders last week. I know that bothered Matt. I apologize. Please forgive me. But he's a hell of a ball player either way. So
yes, he is. Friend of the pod, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Who isn't a friend of this pod?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think Joey Gallo might not be. I don't know.
No.
We don't want him to be.
I don't want. I'm not even trying with him. No.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. All right, so number 60, we're starting to pick up speed. Maybe a 3-hour episode, but we're picking up speed.
They like it long, Sean. That's what I hear.
Yeah. Oh, nice long drive to wherever. So I got to preface this next one here.
Oh, God. We got to preface everyone on this pod. We're just terrible lists. That's all it is.
I really, really like this guy a lot. He's just always injured. Byron Buxton, heck of a player. Dude can't stay on the field. He hasn't played over 100 games since 2017.
Yeah.
He's an outstanding, and I mean outstanding center fielder.
Yeah.
Was a really top prospect, and Dan and I would always joke You know, is he ever going to pan out? I mean, he was a top prospect for literally 3 seasons. That's like, you should get an award for that, and that's not an award you want to get.
Well, I think Profar might still have the all-time record.
Yeah, Jerickson might have that one. Yeah,
it's close. Yeah. They went back.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he never really panned out. But in 61 games last year, and yeah, I know 61. Those, he played. There's 100 more games, 101 more games after he played. Hit 306, had 9 stolen bases, 19 home runs in 61 games. For a guy who never hit more than 13 in his career. Yeah. And mind you, this was his 7th year in the majors. He's only 27, by the way. Came up at age 21. 32 RBIs. He strikes out a fair amount, but on base percentage 358, which is fantastic. And again, take it with a grain of salt. 61 games, but over 1,000 OPS. I mean, if he can stay healthy, he could easily be top 3 on this list. I think he just signed a contract extension with the Twins, which is nice to see. And I really hope for his sake and the Twins' sake he's healthy, so we can see the full Byron Buxton experience, because I think that would be a hell of an experience. The guy just can't stay on the field, but he is a great defender, and it appears he's getting power, which is good to see. And he's always had that speed. Topped out in 2017 with 38 stolen bases. That was actually his only year we played over 100 games, 140 games in 2017. And I think he's only 27. He's in his prime right now. Yeah. And I think he's a guy who, if he puts it together, has a lot of tools, speed, power, defense. I think he could be one of the top players in the American League. Yeah,
no, I agree with you. I've never been hot on him. I think I've been openly down on him for like his whole career, and he's never popped off. He did this year. I did put some respect on his name. I will talk about him later, but that's one of those guys. Like I said, there's so many 5-tool players now at center field, which is why Brian. Again, I'm sorry, man. I just couldn't help you. Number 6, starting out with one of those guys, it's going to be Steady Mulls. 6th for real life, 5th for fantasy. So again, that means I rather Brian for fantasy purposes. I think Brian is more stable. I don't think he's going to be a 30-30 guy. I think he's going to be very close to a 25-25 guy, if you ask me about Steady. His expected batting average last year was like 272. I do think his average is going to come down from that 290 area. I think he's going to hit 277. I think he can outperform his expected, because he does have a high BABIP because he hits the ball really hard. So I think he's going to be closer to 280. That's 10 points an average. What's that going to do for a fella? Not much. It's not going to kill him much. I do think the on base, though, does come down a little bit more. I think he's going to be close to a 340 on base guy than a 360 that he was last year. He's never really done that before. I think that's a little bit too much for me. Just to read off his stats: 24 homers, 277 average, 340 on base. 24 steals. With decent defense, above average defense. Don't get me wrong. And again, leadership, I'm not too sure. I haven't heard a lot about him. But yeah, 24-24 with the batting average upside. I'll take that all day. And I'm being conservative with him. I'm going him under 25-25. So I like Steady Mulls.
Yeah. Breakout year last year.
Yes he has.
Giving some hope to those fans of the Orioles. So we're cracking the top 5 here. We're getting there. So this is a guy who I've always been high on, and frankly, I've known him more as a middle infielder, but he's actually transitioned to the outfield and the center field more specifically. Yeah. Ketel Marte. I mean, I was going to try to think of something else to say, but I really like him. He's my kind of player. He's our kind of player. He hits for a good average, has never struck out over 100 times in his career. He hits for an average, drives and runs. Has a little bit of pop too. I mean, he hit 32 home runs in 2019. That was only a few years ago at this point. Now it seems like it was longer, but Another guy who has some injury history, but not nearly like Byron Buxton. Only played 90 games last year, but the man hit 318, 31 walks to 60 strikeouts. That's pretty good. That's amazing. That's pretty amazing. 50 RBIs, 14 home runs, 90 games, 909 OPS, and an on base of 377. He draws walks. He gets hits. He has a little bit of pop. He has a little bit of speed, even though he only stole 2 bases last year, but can usually steal around 10 bases or so. Doesn't get caught a lot either. And obviously he's in center field, so he's got some speed. Decent defender, not great, but he's not a natural center fielder. He's more of a middle infielder. Yeah. But he's a guy who can hit for an average, and I really, really like Ketel Marte. I think that he's young too. He's young. I'll leave it at that.
I'll talk about him later. I just saw my convulsions. I can't help it when a guy strikes out so low. It just really gets me going. But I'm going to talk about your New York Mets new toy, the new acquisition center fielder for my number 5 overall. That will be Starling Marte. We're having a Marte Parte here.
Marte Parte.
Spot. So that's exciting. 5th for real life, 6th for fantasy purposes. 16 homers, 282 average, 340 on base, 36 steals, and a 3.25 for defense and leadership. Still a really good defender. Starting to go down a little bit. Not as great as he once was, but still a very serviceable center fielder. And I think will be a good leader for that clubhouse going into this year. Listen, I was down on Marte last year. I was hands off. I was like, don't draft him. I don't know. I just didn't like it. I didn't like. I'll leave it at I didn't like. Clearly, I can't speak. I just thought the age was going to catch up to him. Now, he's only 33 now. I guess I didn't like. But I do think he's going to have another great year this year. He hit 310 this year, man, with 47 steals, Sean, out of nowhere. I mean, not out of nowhere, but 47 steals. He hadn't stole. Well, the last time he stole 47 bags was in 2016 when he stole 47 bags. And he did it in 120 games. I mean, this guy is phenomenal. Again, I am having him go down to 36 steals. But I do think the power is going to come back up to 16 homers. I could see him getting to 17, 18. I don't think he's going to eclipse to 20 again. That's just my opinion. It's tough to hit in Citi Field, even though he did it in Oakland. But it's tough to hit in Citi Field. And I do think the last time he hit, over 20 homers was 2019, and that it could be inflated a little bit, which is why I think I was afraid for him this year. Speed, defense, average upside. 282 is even low. He had 310 last year. Decent pop. And this guy does it all. You got to be excited.
I'm thrilled. You'll see him in my ranking. I'm thrilled with that signing. I really am. By the way, the guy who we're talking, Tony La Russa, who got mad at him for Yerman Mercedes.
Oh, you're me. He's so cute. Very cute guy.
Yeah, he retired and then unretired. Tony La Russa was trying to sabotage his career. Yerman Mercedes. Yeah. Anyway, my number 4. Now, people are going to think I'm crazy. And frankly, you are going to too, because you already mentioned him. And he had a god-awful year last year for Cody Bellinger. I am putting a lot of stock in him rebounding. I was just looking at the stats, and they just don't make sense. I mean, he went from an MVP year, and then 2 years later hit 165.
Yeah.
It just, my gut tells me, anything is better than last year. You can hit 190 and consider it a bounce back year.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to do much better than that. I don't think he returns to MVP form, but I think he hits like 240 and maybe hits I'd say 25 home runs, which, is not anything close to what he can do, but in the past, but compared to last year.
It's like his 2018 year, which is what I kind of feel like he's going to do as well. Close to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. He had 25 bombs that year, 76 RBIs. Dodgers and the fans would love that. They went far in the playoffs, and he was almost a liability. Defensively, he is amazing. He's got an absolute cannon, Honestly, it was smart put him to the outfield because the first base, as good as a defender he is, it's almost wasted because first baseman can only do so much. I mean, he's out there in right and center field, and he has got probably the best arm in baseball. I mean, I don't know if you remember this. This was probably 3-4 years ago, but Carlos Gomez on the Mets was trying to go first to third on a base hit to right field. And Gomez is a fast guy, and me and everybody else thought Gomez easily had that. Bellinger threw one of the nicest throws from right field I've ever seen on an absolute rope to the chest, got him out, and Carlos Gomez had no idea what happened.
Talented athlete for sure. Crazy.
Absolutely. But between the defense, which didn't lack at all, and the offensive upside and what he has done in the past, I'm thinking he's my number 4 center fielder.
I like it.
Call me crazy. I don't know what kind of drugs I'm on right now, but my number 4 center fielder is Cody Bellinger.
Hey, Sean, I had 28. I'm going to get the most hate this podcast. Okay. Coming into my number 4. 4th for real life. God, I'm having trouble today, Sean. 7th for fantasy, though. So this is the big jump, the opposite of Brian Reynolds. And this is going to be the risk on. This is Byron Buxton. Again, if you're in real life, though, I mean, this guy's you want him on your team. This is the tool shed right here. This is the shed. Sean read out his stats from what he did last year in 60 games, and it was just, and the numbers back it up too. That's the thing. Like, it wasn't a fluke, in my opinion. He finally broke out. And listen, 27 to 32 is the traditional prime. And it might have just taken him until he hit his prime to hit his prime. I think that's perfectly normal. Not everyone's fucking 19 years old out here just doing like crazy stuff. I feel like people forget that. It took Judge for 26 to come up. He didn't struggle for 5 years in the major leagues first. He struggled in the minors until he was ready. Buxton did it at a grand stage, which I feel like now people aren't as off of him as they were before. But people like me, that hurt my view of him, because I'm like, well, Jesus Christ, this guy just sucks. Well, he's 23, 24 years old. I mean, I'm 23 years old, Sean. I'll tell you right now, I'd have a big issue if I was in the major leagues. That being said, I am projecting him probably to play around 140 games. I have to do some kind of limitation. I don't think he's going to have like 40 homer power. I think that's a little bit, I think he got a little homer happy there. But I do think 28 homers, a 268 average, a 330 on base, because he does strike out a lot, and 20 steals, with, like Sean said, some of the, insane defense. Guys, I don't know. Close to 30 bombs, over 20 steals, decent average, okay on base, and great defense. I'm taking Byron Buxton for my number 4 center fielder this year. I am.
I love that.
Thank you.
If he can only stay healthy.
If he can only.
Well, my number 3 is you just mentioned Starling Marte.
Okay.
I really don't have too much to add on top of what you said. I was just looking at the stats here, and his strikeouts have dropped over the years, and his power has also declined. Not tons, but enough. Yeah. So you might be kind of going in the reverse order that a lot of guys are going. Maybe his average is he's always hit for decent average, but in the past few years it has increased with that. So you might be kind of going with maybe a more old school approach, if you want to call it that. But 47 stolen bases, that came out of nowhere. He only got caught 5 times.
Yeah.
And he's 32. I guess the age isn't catching up to it or affecting his speed too much so far. I'm super excited to see what he can do with the Mets this year. But Starling Marte, my number 3 center fielder.
I do have to inform you, unfortunately, we cannot have another Marte Parte at the number 3 spot. I wish we could. But I do have to talk about George Springer right now, who is my number 3 center fielder. Number 3 for real life and number 3 for fantasy purposes. Guy got injured. Again, I feel like he's had a lot of full seasons as well, but he's had, I feel like, some injury history that's a little bit concerning. Regardless, I do think he gets a full year out there in Toronto this year. And man, what is the RBI and run potential going to be out there in Toronto? For the for the counting stats, holy shit. They might get 120, 120. everybody
Oh,
on the team. I mean, it's just like they're just going to score so many runs. 33 homers, 268 average, 355 on base, 5 steals. The defense is fairly decent. And in my opinion, I'm sorry, but I did give a boost for defense and leadership here. He's got a 2.25. I think he's probably one of the best leaders that you can have on a team. If there's anyone off that Astros team, I didn't like him. I hate George Springer more than anything on planet Earth. But I do think he was probably the best leader in that clubhouse, even better than Altuve. He's very vocal. He plays the game the right way, other than when he's cheating, meaning that he plays hard. And I mean, he's so clutch. He is, I think, the most leadoff homers in history, right?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely in postseason history.
I think that's what I meant. I think he's close to having almost the most homers in postseason history, regardless of when he's hitting them. I mean, the guy he's been insane in the postseason. And I think that really matters. Like, that mattered for my Kike ranking, and I see that it mattered for your Kike ranking too. I mean, who do I want on my team if I'm in real life? You get to the playoffs, I want George Springer playing center field. Guy who's been there so many times before. The leadership's off the charts. He plays a good center field. When we were there, the play he made in center field when we were there was crazy. The power is good. He's going to hit for a decent average. And he's not slow either. He's like 86 percentile on speed. It just doesn't happen to steal, but he's really good first to third. I mean, he's an all-around player. I don't like him. Let me be clear. I do not like George Springer. But they're best center fielder in baseball for me.
Well, we may not have Marte parte, but we got a Springer parade. For yours is number 3, but for me, he's number 2. I really got nothing else to add aside from the fact I really, really wanted the Mets to sign him last year. Didn't work out. Now we got Starling Marte. But yeah, I'm looking at his postseason numbers right now, and my goodness, he has 19 career postseason home runs in 63 games.
It's Bucky what he's doing. He did what Buxton did last year. Okay.
Yeah, in the postseason.
Bucky against the best pitchers, leading off. It's Bucky.
It really is. I really don't have too much else to add. You covered it pretty beautifully. I must be honest.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. Well, now the party's over. I'm actually going to revamp the partay, if you don't mind, and we're going to talk about Ketel Marte, who is my number 2 real-life center fielder, my number 2 for fantasy purposes. Man, you're not going to find a lot of people higher on Ketel Marte than me. Not just high on the player.
I was higher. I thought I was the only one.
I love Ketel. I just love his player. I love his archetype. He's so fun. I actually had Ketel Marte on my real life, my 1-year fantasy team, regular fantasy team, not dynasty, in 2015 and 2016. When he first came up with the Mariners, I was a huge Ketel Marte guy as a prospect. I was high on Ketel because I didn't think he'd ever hit over 20 homers. I didn't think he'd ever do that. But I thought he was going to be a decent source of steals and a 300 hitter. I mean, that's what he looked like coming out. And he did struggle for a couple years before he really broke out there in 2019. And then, of course, the 1 year he decides to break out happens to be the year where the ball is different, so everyone's got to be confused. Comes back in 2020, the power numbers goes away. Everyone's off of him again. Last year, I think we saw it in the 90 games what he is, man. He's just a stud. I think he got a little bit unfortunately nod when he broke out because it didn't look as real, but it's real. 24 homers, 312 average. That's right. I think he's going to hit 312 next year. I just don't. He hit 318 last year, but everything is so sustainable. Like, it's just what he does. He's going to be that guy. 367 on base because he gets on base as well. It's not that he's walking a shit ton, but he's not striking out. And only 5 steals. I know what you're saying. He's been like a 10 stealish guy. Only 2 in 90 games with no caught stealing last year. Maybe he's just not interested in stealing anymore, and that's his prerogative. The defense is okay. Again, it's tough when you're trying to play multiple positions. I like him. I think he's like okay as a leader as well. I don't see that he's just like crazy leadership qualities there in Arizona, but I imagine he's probably the leader of that clubhouse at this point, which I don't think is a bad thing. I'm just a huge fan of Cattell. Is really what it comes down to.
Yeah. My brother had him in fantasy in like 2017, 18. I had never heard of the guy. My brother was like, this Cattell Marte guy is getting him points. And he also had Eduardo Escobar too at the same time. And I don't know if he won the league that year. I don't think he did, but he finished pretty high up there. He's consistent. He really is.
Yeah.
A little bit like a throwback player with a little bit of new age with his game. But yeah,
player too.
I know. I thought I was the highest one on him, but I guess not.
That's how everything goes. Every time you think you're higher on somebody, the other person puts them higher on your list.
Yeah.
Every time one of us has said that, the other person has them higher. Every time.
Yeah. Hey, I was higher on GK apparently.
There you go.
So, well, number one, not at this was much of a.
Can we just end the pod now? I don't understand.
Yeah. Surprise. Mike Trout.
Oh
yeah, the guy who hasn't played in the postseason in like 10 years.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry. He had 27 teams this year. They go to the postseason. 27.
Yeah.
The Angels
Everybody
are
gets
finish 28.
participation trophy, as Jock Peterson said. I don't really, I don't know what else to talk about aside from he only played one playoff series, 3 games. Looking at his stats right now. But seriously, this dude, everybody knows he's the best player on the planet, but I don't think people give him enough credit, if that makes any sense.
I was going to start the argument with stop the slander. I feel like people don't know that this is almost coming. It's like, he's still like top 2 players in the league still, like at worst. Like you guys know he's still Mike effing Trout.
He's one of those guys where he's so good, people just forget about him, which is crazy in a sense. The dude has had over 1,000 OPS 4 times. Well, if you want to include last year, 36 games, let's not include it. 3 times in his career. 3 times. The dude, if he had a decent pitching rotation on that team, like a decent pitching rotation, oh my God, we got to get him in the playoffs. I mean, career 305 hitter. Career 305, all right?
Yeah, I know. It's wild.
Oh my God. I don't know what else. I mean, I want to say stuff, but I don't know where to start. I mean, the guy is just an absolute monster. What's crazy to look at is his stolen bases have just absolutely gone off a cliff.
Yeah.
He stole 49 bases his rookie year, and it's gone down quite a bit since then, but he's probably lost a little speed. He's getting older and he's been injured a lot. I mean, he's still 29. Baseball, your prime still you're 33. But he's got to give him respect. I mean, I don't want to just keep going crazy here, but an on-base percentage above 400, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6 times. 6 times.
Sean, his career on base is 419. Sean, he's averaging 419.
Oh,
on the average, it's 420.
He doesn't get the respect he deserves.
Nah. No, I don't. You can't. When you do that well, you can't. It's not possible. It's not feasible to get the respect. I mean, Sean, he's had an on-base 432, 441, 442, 460, 438, 466 last year in 36 games. I mean, that's just Bucky stuff, guys. It's Bucky.
He struck out 184 times in 2014. Wow.
What'd you say?
He struck out 184 times in 2014. He was doing it for everybody else. Thought it was cool.
He was. He really he tried it out. He didn't like it. He went back to like 150, 130.
Yeah. No, we like that.
And Sean, you know what? I don't think there's anything wrong with trying new things. He did it.
No,
he didn't like it. He went back, and that's perfectly fine.
Absolutely.
As far as Slash line, guys, I think that he actually. His most homers ever in a season, Sean, is 45 in 2019. You're going to say, well, other than that, he's really been around, maybe high 30s-ish, kind of some variance in the homer numbers. He'll never get back to 45. That was 2019. I think he hit 46 this year. I do. I think he tops his homer thing. 8 homers in 36 games last year. And just so everyone knows, his sprint speed was 94th percentile in 2020, last time it was checked. I think the stolen bases are just pure. He doesn't want to get hurt. They don't want him to get hurt unnecessarily. And he has had calf issues last year, which I think is going to start hindering it. I don't think he's really lost as much speed as people think, because people talk about his defense getting better. His defense is perfectly fine still. And it's not elite, but it's perfectly fine. I also think a lot of his fielding, not as great or showboaty, is the same as defense. The Angels are like, bro, do not get hurt. Unfortunately, he has been getting hurt. He has had some injury hit issues the last 3 or 4 years, but this guy plays a full year. 46 homers, 312. I'm sorry, that's Cattell. 46 homers, 289 average, a 430 on base, 10 steals. I think he gets back up to. This is Mike effing Trout, folks. This is your top 5 player in the game on a bad day guy.
I still think he's the best player in all of baseball.
That's not honest.
There's no player that I want on my team more than Mike Trout. Leadership, defense, offense. I know maybe Juan Soto because of the age, but put everything aside, age aside. Just
for 1 year.
Talent.
This is for 1 year, yeah.
For 1 year, I'm taking Trout and praying he stays healthy. But my God, he doesn't get the respect he deserves. He really doesn't.
Put the respect on his name, guys. Put it on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the end of our list, folks.
That is definitely the end of our list. Yeah, I mean this was not a short podcast.
No, this might be the longest one yet.
That's wild.
And there's only 2 of us. When there's 3 of us, it's sometimes just fast.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun tidbits, Sean. We did a lot of fun.
We did. Yerman Mercedes popped up.
You guys now know when fucking Lorenzo Cain started playing baseball. These are the things that you gotta know.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice bar trivia. You want to impress somebody. Hey, Lorenzo Cain didn't start playing until sophomore year in high school.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. There you go.
Yeah.
You're going home.
Yeah.
You're going home that night. Anyway, so next week. I mean, is that it? Is that all 9 positions?
Next week is right field, and then we have starting pitching.
Oh, we have right field still. Forgot about the right fieldies, huh? They sneak up on you. Okay.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big one, huh? We're going to have some big names down at 10, I'm sure. There's going to be like a guy who's like an all-star at the 10th spot. Unless it's top-heavy. I don't know. I haven't thought about it too deep. But there's going to be some – 1 through 3 or 4 is going to be – we're talking probably 2 or 3 of them are going to be in the top 10 players in the league. Easy.
Yeah.
That should be fun.
It's going to be going. You guys should definitely tune in for that one.
Yes. Tune in for that. But anything else you want to say to him, Sean?
Say your prayers that baseball starts and Rob Manfred is fired from his position.
I hear you. That's it.
Yeah.
You start pointing.
Like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. Buy some hats. Tell your friends to subscribe. Tell your dogs to subscribe. Just tell anybody. Just start driving down the street with your window down, yelling, subscribe to the 10th Inning Podcast.
That's it. And guys, next week, as well as right fielders, I'm going to have a little tidbit. I was going to show you some bets that I made on the season. I'll show that next week. So if you're interested in how I'm going to lose money this year, stay tuned. I will give a sneak preview. One bet I did make, I bet the season would start on or before March 31st. We already lost that one, guys. Tune in next week to see what else we can add on.